Hello and welcome back to the Straight Line Path podcast. I'm joined here with my co-host Peter. We just had a great chat with Tim Healy. Tim Healy is the managing director of Couverture Desserts. They supply airlines like Aer Lingus, retailers like SuperValu, Lidl and Tesco. He's been involved in the food and retail space for the last 15 years with other ventures as well.
Tim was great today. We done a deep dive into the food and retail industry in Ireland, having a look at how the different businesses operate across airlines and retail, the setbacks you're going to face in a food and retail environment, how best to navigate those, all this and much more.
Tim, thanks for joining the Straight Line Path podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So you've been in the food and retail space for the last 15 years. I guess my question to you is, how did you get started and why did you get started in the food and retail space?
It's the background to it is really, I'm from a food family business. So my father would have started a food ingredients business back in the 80s. So it was something that was always kind of on the top of my mind. When it came to food and retail, when I left school, I was actually more interested in the bar trade. So I actually went into the bar trade straight out of school. So against my parents' wishes and against everybody who told me, I quit college and went working in bars and became managers of bars. So it really became around, it was around 1920 when, with the background of my family business, and my brothers were kind of migrating, I have three older brothers, they were migrating into the space as well, is where I kind of got the itch for it. So it was definitely something I was always kind of end up with, but I kind of took a different path to most people. The one that well traveled. Education wasn't really for me. I did end up getting a degree, but education really wasn't for me. So when I was in the bar trade, it was simply because I just loved the interaction with people. So that was one of the main focus for me when I wanted to start out, was really kind of see where I would land and see where the interfacing with people was kind of a huge thing for me. So yeah, so that's where my background into it. But yeah, no, so I started probably from about 20, having a kind of an itch for the industry.
And what was the first business you started in this space then?
So yeah, I went into the corporate world first of all, after the bar trade, into an insurance company.
Yeah.
And through that, a friend of mine and me, we actually started, again, once I understood the corporate world wasn't for me, it was the recession in the noughties. So people weren't really starting businesses. So me and my friend actually opened a sweet shop in Temple Bar. I think it was 2009, 2010. Just two 24-year-olds looking for something fun to do. As probably as yourselves would probably imagine, you think you're going to be a millionaire the minute you come up with an idea or open a business. So yeah, we were just kind of two young, ambitious lads. So the first business would have been the Auntie Nelly sweet shops, and obviously that grew to about 30 around Ireland over the following years, in Cork and Kilkenny and Galway and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was just the two of us in Temple Bar with a bank loan and ideas to be millionaires. Pretty much, that was it. That was the start. That was where we really where I cut my teeth into the business world and understanding it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like, did you guys start off Aunt Nellie's in Temple Bar? Was that the first location?
There was my brother's friend started it down in Cork, and we kind of we jumped in with them as like the Dublin core of it. So we kind of went, here, look, we kind of teamed up with them to open it up in Dublin, and then we we ended up teaming up, all of us together in the business over the following years. So yeah, we kind of it was one of those things where we were just seeing a lot of people doing it. Sweet shops. The main thing for us was it was a recession-proof business based on the fact that everybody had a couple of euros to spend on sweets, even when no one wanted to spend any money. And you probably don't remember it, but that recession was pretty tough for everybody. Like, that lasted a good few years. It was just after the Celtic Tiger. So yeah, we based it on the fact that we just thought everybody would always have a few quid to spend on sweets, and thankfully it worked. So yeah, no, it was one of those businesses where we kind of jumped on with other guys, and we all kind of came together after a couple of years then as one big company then, yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you worked with family on that, your brother, and then friends. And we've heard a lot of people say not to mix, business with pleasure, business with family. I was wondering, what's your opinion on that?
Well, it doesn't matter who you go into business with once you have a trust and understanding of why you're going into the business and what the outcomes are. I don't believe in that. I think every situation has its own merit, and as we go through this, you'll see from my point. I do a lot with my families, and
Mhm.
and that friend in particular, we're probably still best friends. We played rugby together for years as well, so we had loads of falling outs. Like again, we were 24, we hadn't a clue, we didn't understand the business as we would have now. So we had plenty of falling outs, but we rode through them, and we're quite close now. And as I go into my other businesses, I started with my brothers again. Who wants to go into business with their brothers? Like, you're gonna end up killing each other. But you find a way, and you never kind of stuck for someone to lean on when you have someone that close within a business for you. So I've heard that saying so many times, but it doesn't reflect reality. If you're a good person and a good business person, you have good ethics. Doing business with family or friends should be second nature. It shouldn't be something to be feared.
Yeah. And what were some of those lessons you learned early on in business? Tell us about those early years.
It was loads of them. It was stuff like managing costs for your staff, managing your own money, how much to pay yourself, your margins on your products, opening hours, what to sell, what not to sell, stuff like that. The main thing for me now, which is a big part of what I do and business I run now, is having a handling on the finance, because we were in a cash business back then. So we didn't really understand if we were profit or loss, because we always had money in the account because it's cash. So we didn't really, it was more of a naivety thing than an information thing. We were just, here, look, we have the money, we're paying everybody, no one's looking for money off us, so we must be doing well. So that was something. And then that comes back and hits you when you have a bad couple of months, or when the weather's really bad in Ireland and you're selling sweets and your shop's closed for weeks, or in Temple Bar, or the other places you had them out in north side, of your window gets smashed in, you're closed, all that kind of stuff. So that was the kind of, yeah. So it was really the information of the running of the business was something I had to learn quite quickly, because yeah, we just didn't. I know it sounds stupid, but we didn't really put it at the top of our heads, because we were more interested in selling and having fun and growing the business than really looking at what's our margins and what's the P&L looking at, and all that stuff kind of comes back and hits you if you don't realize it really early. So that's
Yeah.
something that, again, if I was 24 with the same information I have now, it's the first thing I always look at is P&Ls, cash flows. What does it work? How does it work? And not the fun side of it, which is obviously the selling, which is obviously really fun when you're selling sweets.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was plenty, but yeah, finances would probably be the first thing I'd tell people to learn.
Hey, interesting. And you mentioned the fact that it was recession proof. So that was some of the reason behind it. And I think a big thing now, especially what I see from the outside in the food and retail, is there's so many trends. And would that be something then you would try to almost avoid and kind of keep with your staple goods and things people are going to be buying all the time?
Well, you always have to kind of continuously reinvent yourself, especially when you're in the food industry. Depending where you are within the chain of the industry, you're never standing still. Not one business that I've owned or run looked exactly the same as when I came on board. So it's easy to say that what sells, but food is the most fickle industry in the world, and
Yeah.
people change their minds daily. So unless you're willing to continuously reinvent yourself, it's not an industry that you really want to go into. It really isn't. You have to be really, really willing to continuously try and beat the odds of what do people want. So uh, yeah, with sweets, it was easy because we were reselling stuff that my parents and my grandparents and my grandfather owned a sweet shop in Donegal, which was my first interaction with it. That's an easy thing because you're selling sweet. But when you're in the main industry within food, you have to keep on innovating because you will be left behind. And especially in Ireland because Ireland has such a unique ability to innovate within the food industry. So you will be left behind if you don't. If you're not steering your ship, you're going to be left behind easily and very quickly as well.
Interesting. Because as an outsider to the industry myself, I was kind of wondering what the characteristics and the nuances of the the industry, and I never knew it was that actually quite fast paced and changing.
Mm.
And is it part of the reason why you stayed in that industry as such is just because you've kind of developed that expertise over the last few years?
Yeah. Well, yeah. After Antinelli's, I started the investment business, which was GainLine that we discussed online.
Yeah,
My ambition wasn't really to find food businesses. It was just more where I was migrating because I'd have that background as we talked before, within my family. And what my experience was up to that point at about 27, 28 was the food industry. I did do a few that weren't food based, but I found that when I wasn't in a food based business, I wasn't able to contribute the way I could have. So every time I would do an investment, I'd ask certain questions on is it worth it to return to people involved. But the main thing for me was how can I influence the business and how can they get the best of my experience and skills. And that just always seemed to kind of migrate towards a food business. And since then, the business that have come and gone and Couverture that stayed, it's because of that experience I've had that I've kind of it's now who I am, and it's something that I would never have defined myself 10 years ago as someone who works in the food industry. But it's very much what defines me now, which is the food industry defines me as a professional, which definitely wouldn't have been the case 10 years ago. It would have been I'm an investor, I'm a business person, I'm always looking for opportunity, I'm always looking for the next thing. Where now it's you'd really have to find you'd have to be selling me the new Bitcoin before I'd move out of the food industry again. So yeah, it's a funny one. It's a funny one, and it's one of those things where no matter what industry you are, you will find that kind of core who you are and what your values are, and that industry usually kind of aligns with that.
And what do you think some of those key skills are that you have that are essential for the food industry?
I like eating a lot of food. Is usually, and most of the business I've been involved with have been indulgent foods. So
yeah,
that's really easy. I think it's about just having that passion towards what people want. So, for instance, like one of the business I had was the Chili Shack, which was food burger joints, and it was one of those investments where I was kind of like, I don't know the restaurant space as well as I would have known the manufacturing and ingredient space, but I just loved the food. So I kind of went with it because of the food side of it. But once you get in there, like you can see, like your own characteristics come out when it comes to a food business because you know what your levels of ethics are when it comes to ingredients, when it comes to what the product is, how you present it, how you treat your staff, all that stuff. So I've gone from being a very kind of financially driven person within the industry to try and help the people within my business get better to give a better service to what we do. So that was something that really kind of hit home me 10 years ago, where it's like, I'm not there to progress my career. I'm there to progress the business and the people within it. And that's some kind of characteristics and ethics that I would bring into any business, where if you think you're the MD because you're the most important person, you definitely are not in the right industry or in the right business. So that's something that I brought in, which again had flipped on its head from 15 years ago, where as a young, very ambitious young man, I always presumed I was the most important person because I'm the one putting in the money. I'm the one going to banks. I'm the one taking the risk. And I'm the one who I believed had the skill to get the business to develop. But over time, you've learned very quickly, you have to be able to adapt to the people around you, and they shouldn't have to adapt to you. And that's something huge that I brought into businesses, where I will adapt to the people around me. Their job is not to adapt to my way of thinking. So it's something that I try and help my staff in any businesses. And again, learned over many times where I thought I was right when I was wrong.
Wow. Yeah. And the ethics part's really interesting, especially in the food industry nowadays. I mean, it's a really hot topic. And is there any other things along those lines that you would say are just specific to the food industry? Like when you're trying to scale, I can imagine there's so many roadblocks if you're trying to scale up a factory from, 10 staff up to 60, 70, like
Yeah.
you have done. What are some of the big challenges you meet there?
It's trial and error. And there's nothing else in the food industry that anybody can tell you otherwise. It's just trial and error. Like from the Couverture point of view, like we had some huge fails that nearly put us out of business. Like for instance, we launched an eclair range. You'll see them. I think there's one in Dunleary now at the shop. But we'd like come up with these amazing eclairs, and they just didn't hit the mark. I was convinced that they were going to hit the mark, and they just didn't. And they nearly put us out of business. We were investing loads. Same with we invested a lot into the protein snack industry. So we were manufacturing. So we were manufacturing for certain people, and that was a huge thing. We were convinced that what happened there was, I don't want to name any of the names on this that we were working with, but probably the biggest protein bar, Irish protein bars, we were going to be manufacturing for them. But then obviously they pulled the plug on that. And obviously the two guys who started that business moved away from it. And we were then stuck with all these protein products, but no one to sell them to. So we went with other people. Huge mistakes. We didn't know the industry. We didn't know the ingredients properly. We didn't know the lay of the land and how it works for the margins for someone like that within that industry. So that was kind of something that you kind of have to just grin and bear. So going back to it, like it is a trial and error. Again, at one stage we were nearly contracted to do a lot into Dubai. We were over there. We had done deals with Singapore and Dubai to kind of import a lot of our products in. It didn't manifest a lot into anything, but we put so much time, effort, and money into it that again it nearly broke our back because again, as the MD, I was convinced of this, and I wasn't listening to the people around me that might have gone, this mightn't be the way through. Where I was like, well, no, I have to be saying, I have to push this. I have to push the envelope out because, especially with Couverture, it was a failing business. So I always felt like I had to push the envelope out to get it to a success, and nothing I did made the company a success in that sense. It was all stuff organically done, learning it the right way, learning your industry, learning what people wanted, not what I wanted to sell, which was my problem. I thought I wanted to sell this, and I was convinced I knew the consumer. So it's kind of stuff like that that's very unique to the food industry, where you have to know what people want before you think you can offer it to them. So it is trial and error. It's one of those things where it's just going to take time. Even people coming into the industry who might reach out to me, I tell them the same thing: is you always have a winner when you start a food business. No matter how many products, you always have a winner, and you can coattail that. But if you're not adding on to the wins, then that winner disappears pretty quickly. So so back to it. It is trial and error, which is probably the most unique thing in our industry, because we are always trialing and we're always failing. And we're always waiting for the next successful product. It's just as simple as that. And that successful product will not be successful in a 3 to 5 year space. Just as simple as that. Just the way it would. Especially our desserts industry works, because people's sweet tastes change so quickly.
I, to be honest, I never knew that. That's super interesting. Um, so I guess like picking a product or innovating on a product and getting it to market, it's super important. But I know you mentioned that a large part of it is trial and error, and you mightn't see the fruits of that product for the next 3 to 5 years. But if you could maybe dwindle down like to a list of like what are the highest probability things that you could do before launching a product, like what would that list entail?
Well, again, it's changed so much, but right now we have a very simple process. Um, Again, our business model has changed where we work very exclusively with our partners, which would be Tesco, SuperValu, Aer Lingus, and Apple Green, stuff like that. So we are we are more proactive to reactive products. So we will get briefs every year. All our competitors, everybody in our food industry gets briefs from the retailers or the airlines or whatever. So what we usually do is we do a cost analysis on this because we know how to make stuff. We know how to make it, and we know what our margins are. So before we get bogged into samples and tastings and packaging and distribution, all that stuff, we will simply take half an hour, the team here, Celine and Jack, my two business partners here, with our MPD team, and we literally just go, can we make a product that they're asking for? And can we make a certain amount of margin, which is how we run the business. And if it's a no, it's a no. And if it's a yes, we go back to them and go, yeah, we'll do this. And as you can imagine, working with these companies for so long, there's a lot of trust there. So like, for instance, we've just after launching a new range of products into SuperValu, which has taken us 9 months. But SuperValu trusted us. They went, we want you to make this range. It's a individual cheesecakes and stuff for their own bakeries. So it looks like it's from their bakeries, but we'll make the product. So what happens there is we'll give them a cost level and go, this is what we think we can do this range for. And then it's up to us to produce, scale, and see if they want to take those products. So there's a process within. And again, it has changed so much where we were so eager back when I started, we would have just gone, yeah, we can do that, and made all the products and done everything, and then got to them. And then they went, beautiful, great products, but it might be 30 or 40% out of the cost model. And then we just wasted 2 or 3 months because we haven't looked at our cost model. So we've flipped that as well and gone, what we really need here is we have to make sure we can do it. So again, as I said, we do our cost models. Then Jack, who runs the factory, we go, Jack, can you make this product? He'll go, yeah. And if we need a new machine, great, because it might be worth it for the long run. We make all that decisions. And then it's a process with whatever customer it is. It's a process of how do we get the best product for them so they can sell it at a better price. So it's not a case of let's cost save here and let's cost save there. Our objective is to give a consumer the best products for the best price. And that's our job. It's not the retailer's job. It's our job because we're the manufacturers. So when you go into a store and buy a cheesecake and you see my Couverture's name or whatever, our SuperValu's name on it, we have to make sure that there's the right amount of value to the product, and it's not one of those someone's making a lot of money off this, because you won't in food. I could promise you don't make large margins in food unless you're a marketeer who does manufacture. So yeah, so there is a process. It has changed, but it usually starts with, and it's something could be 3 months, it could be a year. It really takes that long, because even down to like how the stuff goes into a packet and how it goes on a shelf could take 2 months of just going through product after product. Does it fit there? How does it fit? And how it goes through distribution. So once it leaves our factory, it's our brand, it's our name, no matter who's eating it, it's our name on the product. We have to make sure that when you guys go into a store and see our product, that it looks perfect. And that takes a long time. Like, we're just developing our Couverture range, which is in all the stores in Ireland. We're redeveloping that because we want to refresh it. We want to put a bit of a new twist on it because it's gotten a bit saturated. We want to put new products in there. But we've started that process last December, and they'll launch in July. And that they're our products. So no one's stopping us. No one's going, oh, this is going to take time. It's us. We will have a designer in. We'll have a packaging people in. Our NPD team will continuously try and remake the product to get a better quality. And that just takes time. So we're launching in Bloom this year, relaunching our products. And that just, it just seems, again, it seems so kind of mental when you hear it. But that's just the way the process works. So it's a case of we get a brief, we do the work, and we hope it goes well. And that's just, that's the hard part of it. The easy part and the worst part of it is some of these products don't work. Like these products we just launched have just gone into Super Value. We're hoping, and Super Value they're the best in the business, so they don't usually get it wrong. But this could easily go wrong. In 2 weeks' time, they could go, didn't work, the shelf life wasn't there, or it didn't work, the packaging flipped open, or it didn't work. And that's 9 months gone out the window, thousands in NPD work, packaging. And that's just the fickle side of our business as well, where you're kind of, we're relying on you guys and people who go into stores to buy our products. It's not a B to C thing here. So it's kind of, we're hoping that what we do is right and it's at the right level. So yeah, there is a long process, and I've kind of drawn it out, but it's tedious. But again, you're not talking about like, you know, plastic cups here. You do get to eat a lot of stuff before that. Like, so we continuously taste the stuff. We just had one this morning for Aer Lingus business class, and we had the whole team in, just everybody flashing through desserts all morning for breakfast. So yeah. So it is. Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty long, but we believe we have it right now. We believe how we get to our end goal is 10 times better than it was 6-7 years ago. So yeah, no, we've kind of zoned in on it. But yeah, I hope I've answered that question. Jeez, I went on for a bit there.
It's really eye-opening though, as the consumer, to see every good we see on the shelf, like how much goes on behind the scenes that we've no idea about. And I'm interested about that trust, because you mentioned how important that is with Super Value and you know, Aer Lingus now, they'll pretty much back you guys. They know you have the capabilities. But if you were starting off again and you were, you know, back 5, 10, 15 years, how do you start developing that trust as maybe a little known brand?
It's tough, but it is again, within the food industry, these guys are really good as well, because there is academies. There's a food academy in every retail store. Lidl, Aldi, Tesco's, Super, everybody has them. So when you're starting out, there is a lot of, especially within the food industry, there's a lot of goodwill, because food is something that everybody wants to consume, no matter what scale or what level you're at. So people are always looking for the next new thing. So there is a lot of goodwill within these programs. For us, yeah, it's difficult to go back and think like that, where we were like that, but it was a case of we just kept on building that relationship, and it's about the successes you have with each of them. For instance, Aer Lingus, when I came into the business, Aer Lingus, there was very little there, but we just kept telling him, give us a chance, and you have to wait for your opportunity within Aer Lingus, because it's actually harder to get out of the airline industry to get in, because getting in is like, we've been there for 10 years now, but even getting in the door took so long, and it was more the business class desserts were wowing them, that they were like, you know what, if these guys can do this well with our business class, let's see what they can do with our economy pot, which is obviously the main business, which is millions of pots a year, and our afternoon teas, the little cookies you get, or little biscuits. So it's a case of show them what you can do and prove your point. And when you prove your point, go back and go, I've proved my point. What's next? Wait, what do you want next from me? And that's all we did. We just kept on going, what's next? And sorry, that hasn't changed to today. We're always going, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because we have to keep on proving that we can do this. And sometimes you get kickbacks on that. Sometimes you get, especially when you're starting out, you can be, there was a coffee chain about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was something that we did wrong. We put the product in for them, but we priced it wrong, and we lost that completely. And they have never come back to us. A pretty large chain, and they won't come back because of that. So it's also, you have to be so vigilant in what you do and make sure that the decisions you make are for the benefit of the end consumer and not for your business and the retailer, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to buy the product. So yeah, it's tough, but it's also, as I said, there's a lot of goodwill within the food industry. There's a lot of people looking for the next new product, next new business, next new person to step up and kind of take a new sector and go after it. So yeah, no, there's always opportunity, but it's always about getting it right.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, you mentioned retail like Tesco and SuperValue, and then airlines like Aer Lingus. Is there a difference in the delivery between the two of those industries?
Yes, very different.
Okay.
Airlines, you have to be very meticulous. You're talking about desserts that will go from our factory onto trays, onto the planes, onto the trolleys. So you have to be, for instance, with the airlines, they only have a certain amount of time they can move a product, like an air hostess within business class. So we have to develop a function that makes sure that the product is pretty much set within there. So all they're doing is putting it in front of someone. So that's like, there's a lot more goes into how we pack it and how we freeze it, all that kind of stuff, and how it's transferred. For instance, with the airlines, we have to be able to transfer it straight out to the airport, because if it was going into Cork or sitting in an air warehouse, it gets thrown around. And these things are pots, and I know they're frozen, but anything like the business class, anything moves on that and you're just gone. So there is a huge difference when it comes to the packaging of it. And again, when it comes to the airline, we have to change the product because of taste buds, because the taste buds are lessened up in the air. So there's a lot more kind of, I wouldn't say sugar, but a lot more direct taste to our products in the airlines. Where if you took those airline products and met them here, you'd find them quite indulgent. You'd be like, geez, that's a lot. But when you're on an airplane, you don't feel like that because of the air compression takes that away from you. And then with retail, it's a case of how you work with each of them. So for instance, for all of us, we do central billing, which we just send pallets into their warehouse. So it is a very simplistic way of thinking about it. So our cakes are put into boxes of 6, put on a pallet, then they get distributed out to the store. So it's not a very meticulous thing to get a corrugated box, get our product in that box, seal it, and get it out of here. Where the airlines is, you can be sure, and you'll hear about it as well. So like they're very, very, which they should be. Their quality checks are huge. So they're checked here, checked as they leave into their depot. Everything's checked from start to finish. So yeah, it is. There is different scopes, and then again, we're in the food service industry as well, which is our third prong, which isn't retail. That's stuff that goes into restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that. And that's even different because some of that stuff won't be cooked, won't be baked. So that means it has to be tempered or put in a pack in a certain way. So when it gets into, let's say, a Starbucks, the brownie has to go into that oven, and there's certain ways. And then we do for Apache pizza, like that brownie is crazy. Like when you get an Apache pizza, you just think you're getting a brownie in a box. But how that gets in there, and like we had to develop a box that had to take the heat of their ovens. If you ever been in an Apache pizza, it's one of those ovens that goes straight all the way through. So we had to develop a box just for that product, so it could go through, take the heat, cook, and still go out to you, a consumer. So they are quite different, but yeah. So the airlines are definitely the worst, followed by the food service, and then retail is quite easy because you're just getting it onto a shelf. It's packed. All the durability is done within here because we're putting packs on it, putting covers on it. So the durability is done within the factory, where the rest of it's, you're hoping that it's just handled well.
And all those different, scenarios, that you've mentioned there about like the long oven or the different tastes, the different taste when you're up in the sky. How do you, is it a case like you think of all those things beforehand, or you go in, you do a check, or is it kind of like, oh, we just launched this and, we're having this problem. Can you just reiterate? Can you come back to me? Can you fix it?
We do beforehand. Everything's not. That's not to say that we don't have issues afterwards, but we will do as much as we humanly possible to make sure either the airline or the product on shelf is being tested to the nth degree to make sure that it doesn't need to be changed. Because having a recall in retail is disastrous for a lot of reasons. So you don't want that. And then with the airlines, if you haven't got that right, this is what the airlines will have to do. If we don't have that product right, they will have another competitor waiting to take over that airline or that flight or 5 flights that day, and that's their opportunity to get into the industry. So we have to have it right. We have to have our backups to that. We have to make sure that everything that goes in, and it's not one of those they're holding you over a barrel. They just have to have a product on the planes. So they have to have their contingencies. So we have to make sure their contingencies is us and not them, and not them going to whoever it is. So yeah, we are pretty rigid. Like we have to be pretty on the ball when it comes to airlines, and then the rest, everything's done. You have to. You just don't want to make those mistakes. It's just more because it's just a pain. You don't want the hassle of it. And then you don't want to lose that reputation. You don't want to lose the reputation you've built up as well. So it's pretty important that you get packaging. Packaging's it's 40% of our products as I mean importance wise. You have to have it right, because if you don't, you're not going to buy cupcakes off us again if the cupcake's smashed against the product, or if the dessert is melted in our box. You just won't buy it again. So it's really important.
It seems like a business that there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of like points of failure where things can go wrong, and then if something goes wrong, well, that can have a big impact. And whether it's a customer leaving or at least a product line leaving, how do you deal with that personally, like from maybe a stress peace
It's
of
pretty
mind?
exciting. Like
Oh yeah.
it's exciting. If you don't enjoy that side of the business, again, I wouldn't be in the food industry. It's exciting because there's also that level of success is felt a little harder when you get it right. It's not a simple sale. It's not as simple as getting something over the line. It's and I hope I talk for all the guys here. Like, there's a certain amount of pride. Again, we have a new MPD manager here, and she's just starting out, and she's launching that new products in Soup Value, and it's like she gets that pride of seeing her product that she's developed, that she's put onto the floor on shelf. So that's how you kind of balance it out between that success and failure. Is the ups are great and the downs can be fixed, and that's as simple as that. There's always another opportunity the next day when it comes to the food industry. As I say to the team, you draw a little dot, and that's Ireland, and then just 2 huge circles. Like, we're tiny, so there's always opportunities. So when you get that fail, it's just you get the next high, which is getting that product on shelf, and it's something that I know the team feel as well, because they do all the work. All they do is actually chase the products. I don't do any of the work. I just taste the products and go, "That's that tastes nice." But you do get a management based achievement when you're like, "That's brilliant. We're on an airline now. We're our product there. That's our product on shelf that people are buying thousands a week." Like, so there is that you do counter that stress of failure to there's some serious success when, like, food is so unique like that. When you get that win, it's pretty good. Like, you do feel it, and you can feel it across the board. Even those on the floor, everybody who works in the factory, they get pride in the fact that they see their products out there. So yeah, so it is stressful, and that's not to say there's been loads of stressful times, but then again, it goes back down to who you work with. Your team has to be your backbone. So when something does go wrong, It's about being calm and making sure that everybody knows their role within that crisis and how we get to the end of that crisis. And again, I can't say enough about my own team. No matter what crisis, and we've seen like Brexit, COVID, everything, everybody steps up when the gun gets tough. Everybody. And that's why the team's been here for years.
You mentioned earlier on that you found Couverture as a failing business.
Mm.
What's that story like? Like, how did you find Couverture, and then how did you turn it around?
So I was working with Enterprise Ireland when I started GainLine, more as a basis of they were trying to connect me with young people who had started business, and I was doing a small bit of mentoring. And through that, someone within Enterprise Ireland actually said, there's a company called Couverture. It was around for about 1998. So what's that? 23 years, and it was quite successful within the food service industry. So it was doing a lot of high-end products into five-star hotels, stuff like that. So I was initially just coming in to invest in them because they were looking to get an investment because they weren't doing well and they needed an investment to kind of kickstart the business. And then when I came in, I just kind of realized that it wasn't as simple as I thought it was. There was a lot more issues to the place. They were renting an old Dulux building down on Davert Road, which was like a second story factory. So it wasn't a great setup to have a product like this like that. So, but I saw so much of what it could be within the first couple of weeks. It was one of those kind of, oh, I'm in for a penny here kind of thing, because I was like, I really just, everything about the business just went, you know what? And it was one of those things where I was like, I could, and this is me 10 years on now. I even remember back then at 28 and 29 going, I could easily stay here. I could easily give up what I'm doing, which was stress investment, which that's how I found them. I was looking for businesses going out of business. And I was like, I could easily stay here because I just knew that there was something about what they were doing that I could help with, which was show them where we were going wrong and help them make it right. So it was again a long journey, but it was something that I was just so keen on doing. And I kind of put my initial plans for my exit for GainLine on hold, because although I did a lot of investments with my brothers, none of them took my time up, and none of them took my full time up. So I just kept on investing in Couverture over the years, and it was, yeah. So for the first few years, it was just about finding our feet, getting to grips with how our margins work. Again, back to what we were talking about earlier about those initial learnings from my other businesses, whereas like if I went into Couverture without the learnings from my previous businesses, I probably would have failed as well in that, because the main thing Couverture needed was to learn what the business was and what the margins were and why were they making that product. And like there was a lot of making a lot of small amounts for a lot of people. So it was one of those things where it's like, guys, we have to make a lot more for a lot less people. So when you have, let's say, a hotel over there wants 20 cakes, or another a coffee shop who wants that. So it was about mainstreaming what they were doing. So yeah, I wasn't. Everybody always has these questions like, oh, how do you get so successful in turning these businesses around? But reality, people will just tell you what they want to hear from your own ego. For me, it was about finding out how good I was and helping other people do their jobs better. Because when I got there, out of the management team here, 7 of the 9 of them are still here from when I started. So they're still the team. Like Elaine, who's my business partner, she's the sales director, and her and Jack are probably the most important people in the business because they're the front of house and the manufacturing. I don't know how to do their jobs. I can't. I've tried to do the sales. I've been kicked out of a few meetings because I've been a bit too passionate about it, and I definitely don't know how the factory runs. So all I was trying to do was I was trying to show them where they were falling down, which was we were making too little for too many people. and there's too many hands on it. So I was trying to mainstream it. I was trying to keep the integrity of the business, which is having that handmade field products. But we had to modernize it. So there was a lot of times, and then we moved out here in 2027 with it. It was a factory just ready made for us. So it was about kind of finding the opportunities that we didn't have before or weren't accustomed to, because we were so used to doing it a certain way, or hand cutting stuff. Or so adding machinery in and adding aids to the people here was the main change. I was just adding to what they already knew to give them a better opportunity within their departments to succeed. And that was the main thing I could have brought in, was tooling the people up to do better at their job that they're already doing pretty good at. And that was it. And there's no like, I've heard loads of people go, I've did this and I'm brilliant, and I knew someone in Aer Lingus and Super Value and me and the owners are great buddies. There's nothing like that. It was literally about, guys, this is what's going wrong. Let's just try it this way, and then let them go and let them do their jobs and just support them. And that's the main thing, was supporting the senior staff. And they're still here because they do all the work for me. It's great.
And is there a particular moment along that journey that really stands out to you, like your proudest moment?
I wouldn't say proudest. Oh, sorry, I would say proudest, but it wasn't a moment. It was a time. It was COVID. So COVID was, I think, the making of our business to what it is today. And it was crazy, because me and the other two guys aside, we had choices, because with COVID, we lost 90% of our business overnight with the airlines and the food service. So all the hotels, all the restaurants are closed, and the airlines are gone. And we had maybe 30 staff at the time, and we were just like, "What the hell do we do here?" And again, what kind of kicked us on was watching everybody moan and complain and say, "This isn't fair. This isn't our doing." Where we were like, "We can't be like that," because there's with the management, there was 40 people relying on the three of us to pay them every week. So we decided to look at how we can change the business. So we did. That's when Couverture Cakes, or the Couverture range, was launched. So we went, let's make sure that we always have something that's ours, that another person can't take away from us, which is our brand, our products. So no matter what happens, be it the airlines decide we're not for them anymore, be it the retailers go, we're going with someone else, we will always have something that we rely on, and which is ours, which is our cakes. So when we developed those cakes, it became very evident that we were onto a pretty decent winner. And it got us through, not just got us through COVID, but it refocused what we were doing. Because all the things that I did up to that stage, as we discussed before, I still wasn't doing enough. There's an old adage in food, it's the 80-20. So like 80% of your turnover is 20% of your products. And we were still on about 150 products. So within COVID, not just launching our own range, we got rid of everything. Everything that didn't make money, everything that was not a big seller, everything like that, no matter who the customer was, and not the consumer. I just want to make sure, because the consumer and customers are completely different in this scenario. We just went, it's gone. We're not making any more. Please go to competitor. We can't make it for a profit, so it's gone. And we must have cleared out 80 products. So we've really streamlined what we do, and what we do is what we do really well. So that was a huge part of the journey for all of us here, where we were like, that, geez, it was in the boardroom next door. We were all sitting around. We weren't joking about it, but we were all going, this is mental that something's happening in China. And we'd say it hadn't hit Ireland yet. We were like, at least it won't hit here. And like a week later, we're sitting then going, no more orders. Nothing's happening. We tried to go online, which obviously didn't work, because don't buy cake online. That's a bit of a direct advice. But it wasn't working and stuff like that. So it was crazy. And to think that we were sitting there going, how are we going to get through this? Like, we were down to 10% of our turnover. And we were like, we're gone. And then it just, you find that strength within your team and even yourself to kind of go, Jesus, do you know what? let's not let's not make this the end. Let's chew everything. And if it is the end, make sure we did everything in our power to make sure that we tried our best to keep this place open. And it was just like that, and fine and stuff like that kind of got us through. So it was pretty cool time. It really was. It was very scary, but as I told you earlier about that stress levels, that success will live with me forever, and I'll be telling my kids that kind of story. So like that was pretty cool for me. The COVID revamp, we call it.
Yeah. So the COVID revamp, like quite the roller coaster, but also the success of Couverture. In terms of yourself and even the business, what's your vision maybe for the next, 2,
Well,
5, 10 years?
We're actually building a new factory in Tala.
Okay.
So we're on about 12,000 square feet here, and we're moving to 55,000. So it's going to be about the factory about 4 times the size we have here. So it's back to that old adage of Ireland's this big and the world's huge. So we are kind of constrained here. So we have a capacity level here where we can't just sell all to everybody and anybody. We have to be very particular, and hence why I go back to that partnership of why our partners are so important, because when they grow, we grow with them, kind of thing. So we're very particular about how we get into relationships. So when this place is open, it's a case of we want to do more of the same. So what we found a very niche part of our industry. So within, especially the desserts industry, you have the handmade people, the people who do the desserts handmade, and you have automated people, people who it's just one big line and they just make one product all day long. And there's about 4 or 5 of us in the middle that are we have the ability to do large capacity, but also keep it very unique to each customer. So we are planning on kind of taking over that section of the industry, which is be the biggest flexible desserts company. And flexibility means being able to change a cookie to different from Super Value to Tesco. So we're not selling the same product in the same stores. So everybody has their own unique lines. And that's very important for our customers mainly, because again, as you can imagine, like Pepsi and Coke and stuff, they don't want to be competing with each other for products. So it's our job to make sure they're not. So when we launch a product with 1 or 2 or Little or Aldi or something, we have to make sure that when we are selling that product, other than our own brand, which again, our brand has to go into everybody, but when it comes to products for them, we have to make sure we're not selling the same product. And that's our uniqueness, because if you are a large company with automation the whole way through, when no hands are really touching it, you have to sell the same product to everybody, because that's what you're buying. It might be cheaper, it might be better business, but it's not unique to what you're selling within your store. So the plan is to just keep growing. So we're expecting to go to about 200 people in the next 2 years with this. So we're growing. Like the rapid growth up to now is being kind of cool, but the next one's going to be wow.
Nice.
The next one's going to be the wow one. Everybody goes, wow, how the hell does you go from that to that? And again, I'm just facilitating my staff to do it, and it'll be Celine and her team pulling out briefs and getting products. So yeah, no, the next one's going to be a huge move. So the next growth will be in the next 3 years, and it'll be pretty large. But yeah, no, again, it's exciting. It's food. Like you should always get excited about food, especially desserts.
Easy.
Not like vegetables. Hope you don't get some vegetable person on there. So
yeah, I wish you the best of luck with that.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we can let you leave without you giving your personal recommendations. So you eat and you're trying all of these foods the best. Which is the best branded product you have currently? Try.
You know what? I was thinking about doing this with you, and I was like, they're going to obviously ask me about a dessert. Like, see, I'm not. I don't want to do a long answer, but if I got all the MPT guys in here, they would tell you that I'm terrible because I just eat everything at the table. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. I'm always just eat out. But I would say, like our cheesecakes are pretty big. Like I love cheesecake. Like cheesecake, like you can't go wrong with a cheesecake. So I'd say our cheesecake's pretty deadly. And we do then a thing called a brookie, which is half a cookie and a brownie.
Okay.
And that's pretty decent. See, we also do a cookie dough as well, and I love cooking. So yeah, cheesecakes, go with cheesecakes, because I know that I will just keep on changing my mind. Cheesecakes. And I haven't had lunch yet. So it's like everything's coming through my head.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to seeing your journey over the next couple of years. And I look forward to trying out all of those products you just mentioned there. So
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
Cool, lads. Thanks for your time as well. It was really enjoyable going through my own journey. I haven't done it in a while. So yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys.